Hey everyone, welcome to episode 48 of AI GTM Talks. We're glad to have you back today for another episode. My name is Mani Iyer, and with me is Sri Srivatsan, who's our CRO. Sri, how are you?
Hey, good money. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. I know you've been traveling and you're back, and nice to have you here. So, folks, today's episode is we're going to be talking about kind of the AI GTM tech stack modernized. So it's all about building a modern AI GTM tech stack. And just a little bit of quick background on this talk series. We kicked it off, it's almost a year ago now. And as you can see, we're on to episode 48. We've been bringing on either AI GTM tech CEOs who go deep dive into different areas. We've also brought on revenue leaders, growth leaders who talk about how they're transforming their companies around GTM. And then, we've also brought on subject matter experts and specialists in different areas. Now, today we figured we'll cover a topic area that seems to be top of mind for so many revenue leaders, which is how should they go about transforming their GTM tech stack? How should they be thinking about it? How do they, what I call, do a analysis, tear, and rebuild of the stack? And so, real quick, I'm going to put up the next slide so you all know a little bit about us. So Sri, I know you've been with us. I think it's been several months. I think almost like 6 months now. How do you think, Sri, about this whole topic of GTM and what's happening around AI and tech stack modernization?
I mean, look, I think AI is completely upending the way GTM works, and
Hmm.
it's very important to be very productive from a sales perspective, which means that
Yeah,
you need to meet the buyer when they are in market. So signals becomes paramount. That's
yeah.
my big learning, and it's important to be able to understand when a buyer is in market, so we can actually
Mhm.
intercept that. And there are multiple signals, and everybody talks about these signals, but it's so critical. It's become almost table stakes now, and it's about making sure that not only are you capturing these multiple signals, that you're able to
Mhm.
unify them, and you're able to follow up on them so that your sales reps, your inside sales reps, your outbound callers, whoever they are much more productive because they are talking to their prospects at the right time when the prospect is
Mhm.
looking. Because the reality in today's world is that the buyers are doing their own homework, and they're doing a lot of the homework before they want to talk to a salesperson. So signals is
Mhm.
very important. And so I'm excited. It's just, I can see it as well from the challenges that our customers are facing and the demand that's in the market for us, and how they want to consume these signals and really become more aware of when their buyers are in market.
Yeah. So I think, Sri, it might be probably helpful to folks as to the way we're going to frame this, right? Which is,
Yep,
I know you and I
exactly.
talked about this, that we're going to be looking at the tech stack and the technology people are putting in place and using. One is in
Yep,
the SMB context, small to medium business type of B2B companies, and the other was going to be around the mid market. So,
exactly.
uh,
Exactly. Maybe we can start, Money, by just talking about your view on what is a Signals Hub, and the big question that customers and prospects keep asking us is, how do we organize these signals in a structured way? So maybe if you could talk about what are the elements of a Signals Hub, how these signals can be aligned and operationalized in a structured way. That might be a good starting point.
yeah. I think many of the folks I know who join us, they may already know some of this, but yeah, just to set the context, we look at a signals hub as a single piece of technology and fairly broad that can cover the full surface area of the kind of signals most B2B companies want to deal with. So it's one place where you can aggregate and unify the buying signals both at a person level and a company level. A lot of the traditional, as you know, ABM tech and tools have tended to be more at the company level. They can tell you Cisco's on your site or HP's on your site. They cannot tell you who from Cisco or who from HP. And then you have signals that are on your website, so which is de-anonymizing your site traffic. You have signals off your website, which is off-site intent at a person level. They think of some of the traditional tools that are more at a company level, again, taken to person level. And then you've got social signals. So social signals would be from all the different social channels. And another dimension is some other interesting company level signals that you can pick up from news articles and job postings and SEC filings and a variety of things that you can do scraping and so on, and bring the account level information back, and then find the right target for those companies to go after. So it's a fairly broad range of signals that people are trying to aggregate and unify and make sense of and then operationalize. So that's the scope. And of course, we have the Signals Hub offering, but then we also have a companion managed services offering, as you know, Sri, where we go in and help these companies really understand what do they have, what is the kind of footprint or kind of tech and tools that they have, any of the tech and tools that they can put to use and continue to utilize because they are pretty much the best in class of what it does, or do they have some tools that there is the opportunity to kind of upgrade, if you will. And there's some other even more cutting edge, better tools that are out there. And I thought we should also mention, Sri, that we're actually next month on March 18th, we're kicking off our monthly AI GTM cafe. And it's more of an invite, kind of a gathering separate from those LinkedIn live sessions we've been doing, where we're, bringing on customers, our partners, folks who are ABM, I call them ABM, AI GTM insiders, who really are at the cutting edge so that, we can all learn from each other. But anyway, back to you, Sri. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mani. That's great. I think before we get into, I know you are, recently posted on something very interesting, which is your 9-layer AI, sales automation tech stack. But before we get
Okay.
there, I think one of
Yeah.
the things that I hear from our prospects, and maybe you can share with the audience here, that a lot of times we are subject when it comes to data and signals. We have legislation in different countries and so on. But with
Yeah.
social, we have some exciting news where it's a lot more global in scope and nature. So maybe if you can talk about social signals and how it's how you can monitor customer
Yeah.
contacts on their social activity globally, which is very useful
Yeah.
for many of our customers who are also operating, across countries.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think that's something people should understand is there are different flavors of signals, and some of them only work in specific global geographies, right? Some of these are US only because of a variety of regulations around data compliance and privacy and GDPR and CCPA and a bunch of other laws and regulations that are out there. And then, so you have some of these website signals that are US only. They have certain offsite intent signals that are also available US only. But then there are certain social signals that are available with a broader footprint at an individual or person level around their social activity. So, what are they doing in terms of posting or liking or commenting and so on and so forth in different social channels? That is available and that does work at global scale. So you can try to, start engaging with people who are might be in different global geos, APAC, LATAM, ANZ, EMEA, and so forth. But again, in a way that is, quote, you're not running foul of any of the ways you can engage with them. So you certainly, you don't want to email them, you don't want to call them unless you have permission. But there's some ways you can engage them on a social channel, because under the terms of service of social channels, you're okay to engage with them, comment on their posts, for example, or engage with their questions on social channels. But yeah, that I think you're right, Sri. That's a new thing. We're calling it social monitoring. That's now another avenue, if you will, that people can try to engage with prospects as outside the US, especially. But yeah, back to you.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Let's now talk about your. I saw your vision and your conversation and your posts around
Yeah.
the AI sales automation tech stack and the 9 layers you identified. So maybe you can walk the audience through the 9 layers of the tech stack that you feel is necessary for, let's say, a small or medium enterprise.
Yeah. So we're going to start with the SMB segment, SMB company first, and then we're going to go into the mid market. So we have a couple of examples. This SMB example is companies about call it about 25 million in annual revenues. It's that kind of company that we're looking at here. And then we have a mid market example that's more like a 500 million ARR type of company, which is much more massive, significantly more scale. So here, this company, what they're just rolling out is something that looks like this. So, at the very top level, if they look at the top of the funnel, they want to be able to find in-market buyers, right? So to find in-market buyers, what are the components that they're rolling in, rolling out, across their stack is this, what we call our Signals Hub. So the Signals Hub is a key component there for them, that they are utilizing several signals from us. So, the website visitor intent signal, which is who's coming to their website, who have never ever filled out a form. They can de-anonymize them and put them to use, anybody that's fits their ideal customer profile and personas and so forth, that they can put to action. Offsite intent at a person level, again, where they can put in topics of interest and then go and try to get them to engage. Try to engage with them once they come in, and they can capture those offsite intent at a individual person or lead level. And then social monitoring, like we discussed earlier, right, is have a predefined set of, call it several thousand topics. Individual LinkedIn, individual social handles of people, that they can then say, okay, let me figure out who these people are. Let me go engage with them on social channels. Now, keep in mind, they also have some other intent sources too. It's not just us. So they also got some company level intent sources that they've had, that they're going to continue to use. They also have, another tool that does certain account level intent based on, job postings and role change kind of signals. And then anybody some additional business activity, right, in certain companies around certain projects or certain initiatives. And so there, of course, you would need other tactics to go and grab that data and bring that in. So we're talking about bringing all that together. So in their case, they bring it all together. Some of it is, these other tools have already been feeding their HubSpot, if you will. So that's why you see HubSpot CRM as a level 2. And then, but what happens from here is, if you go to the next step, is uh, really the name of the game is taking all the signals. There's all the Quanzus, giving them a whole bunch of interesting signals. They have these other tools that are giving them some other signals. Some of them are coming into HubSpot, but then some of them are coming from Quanzu straight to the next step. And the next step is aggregating all these signals and making sense of them, scoring them, and qualifying them, then enriching a subset of all the signals and leads based on what fits their personas, what fits their ideal customer profile targets, on and on. So I can go on, but let me pause here, Sri, and see if you have any questions that you can ask on behalf of the audience.
No, I think that's really compelling, because I think these different layers and peeling it is very useful for customers, because there is just so many different tools. And before we get into the rest of the layers, I do want to ask you, when there's so many different tools that customers are having, do you see uh, consolidation of those tools happening in our customers? Like, they've been using multiple tools, and now they don't see a need for that when they start putting an integrated Signals Hub.
So the answer is yes. I mean, I'll give you examples, right? If you go back to the previous layer, which I'll go back for a second, and then we can continue down this track. Uh, for example, we've seen that in some cases we go into a new customer, um, and so they have they may have a point tool that does their website de-anonymization. So when we explain to them that we actually have aggregated multiple website resolution data providers in the back end, and we can offer them a very strong, really high quality website resolution data, and cost wise it's comparable, it becomes a pretty easy decision for them to say, you know what, I'm going to pause that other tool and use the Quanzu website resolution tool as the primary. Now, they may choose in some cases to test it, run it together in parallel for some time to see, is there anything additive they can get from the other website resolution tool into the additional leads that they can bring into us. And by the way, we don't charge them twice, so they can easily block those leads over here on our side. And then we can give them a sense of, okay, here's all the net new you're getting, and you're paying for these, plus you're using that. And then give them the comfort that we have those leads also. So then they can turn that off. That's one example. The second one is, if you look at offsite intent, the person level offsite intent is fairly unique from us. There aren't too many other providers that are able to offer them that. So that ends up being something that they find quite interesting. If you look at social monitoring, There are some one or two tools that are plugged into, for example, as part of the Clay ecosystem. So they plug into Clay. So then, we've seen customers compare, the capability and cost of what we are able to do versus what they're able to get there. Very often they find that one, the business model, commercial model is very unpredictable. It's a credit-based model where they can just blow up at them at any time. We have a very simple pricing model. We say it's cost per monitored social handle per month, independent of how many posts, independent of how many comments, how many likes. So they like that. I mean, it's a very predictable budgeting exercise for them. So they're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to come in on the social component here too. Another thing we're seeing quite a bit of is ABM, right? People have had their traditional six senses and demand bases and other ABM tech and tools, but then they're like, you know what? The whole world has changed with all this new signal-based tech. Why am I spending, literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $100,000 on that kind of a tech, which is not giving me the level of deep insight at a personal level that these more modern tools are able to give me. So we're starting to see customers get smart about that. They're trying to pause some of those renewals, or they're just keeping it for certain pieces that they want to continue to use over there and moving some of those budget and funds over here. But yeah, back to you, Sri.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple of really important points. One is transparency of pricing, and also
Yeah,
because customers want that, and it's table stakes in today's world because we need to make sure that customers can budget properly, have exact clarity on what the money is being spent for, and how many leads they want to use per month, et cetera, et cetera. And the second thing
yeah,
is the ABM use case, where when we have a bunch of accounts and we know the contacts, we can now monitor those contacts for their activity on the web for offsite intent. We can also monitor them for social. And so therefore, if you have a white space account and you, let's say I want to penetrate competitive accounts or white space accounts, and I know I need to get into these 500 accounts, and here are my 5,000 contacts, but I don't know anything about them. I want to just monitor when they're active. I can go and have a
yeah.
conversation with them. I think these things where the consolidation and the use of the tool comes in very handy, because now they can see a unified, more consolidated view of the signals from those contacts in ABM context. Anyway, getting back to our conversation, Money, let's go through the rest of the layers. You touched upon the first two or three layers. Let's go through the rest of the 9-layer stack that you got.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think one thing, Sri, I should mention is we get a lot of questions around the Quanzu Signals Hub and how does that different from Clay, right? So I want to touch upon that, which is what we recommend folks is, is with Clay, what's going to happen is you're going to end up paying what we call the Clay tax, right? So you're going to end up some additional cost that's going to happen. It's going to be much more variable. We have come up with a way to have very predictable pricing around individual signals and leads and so forth. So upfront how much do you need to budget for. Again, same old, right? The other thing is we're taking away a lot of the headache with Clay about trying to figure out, okay, if you're going to have what's called waterfall enrichment, where you need to say, here's a lead record. I need to make sure the email is accurate, the LinkedIn URL is accurate, the work email is present, this is present, that's present. You end up building this kind of waterfall of different providers, and it's very unpredictable cost in terms of what am I getting, number one. Number two, it requires a different skill set. You need a rev ops person, a GTM ops person, GTM engineer type of person to be able to build all that stuff. The good news with the Quanzu tech is it's end user focused. It's really designed for the growth marketer, demand marketer, sales leader, right? Sales manager, SDR manager. They can just come in, plug, put a bunch of things for configuration, and off they go, right? Literally within a few hours, they were up and running, right? Getting their all signal data coming out the door. So it's pre-built, curated, ready to go, ready to use signal data. Versus here, you got to put a lot of work into it before you start getting the output you want. So I want to kind of call that out as a contrast. Now, having said that, let's continue down the stack. We talked about signals. We talked about HubSpot, where a bunch of signals are coming from a variety of sources. Pulling all that out, the next thing you're doing here is you can either use Google Sheets or you can use like a Superbase, like a relational database, but you can collect all the signal data in there. We actually have a kind of a data model fully built out, so they can actually, as part of our engagement, we actually literally they license our data model back to the customer, so they have it ready to go, ready to use as long as they're under license. And then you can use a tool like Na10, which is like a workflow engine. And so we also have our team that will go in and literally build them the Na10 workflows, including scoring the accounts, scoring the leads, making sure the right accounts are being actioned on a daily basis. In fact, I was on a call the other day with a very senior leader at a mid market company, and they don't have a process for this yet. So he was like, oh really, oh you're right, we aren't even doing this, and we need to, because they have a significantly large SDR team, but they were not necessarily prioritizing the right accounts and then prioritizing the right leads that have literally shown fresh signals in the last 24 hours, which is what their SDR team really needs to action. But they have literally thousands of leads coming at them all the time. They're constantly backlogged, so they were not thinking about, okay, you know what, I should be acting on the freshest leads first. Seems obvious, but that's something that was a miss. Now, if you keep going, as you can see, Sri, the next thing is, once you have that little filter put on, okay, here's the accounts and leads I should be pursuing, making sure it's 100% clean before you go and execute the outbound campaigns. So that's why we have this enrichment layer, as you can see. So the enrichment you can use, if you have an existing license for some data provider, you can obviously use API keys and plug that in. We're doing that for one customer. You can, of course, have a waterfall of other tools, like as you can see, Apollo, Prosphere, Better Contact, and you can run those. As you can buy the licenses, you can do it on your own using our support on the N8N workflow, or we can actually put it together in a waterfall and we can run it for you without you having to worry about individual licenses. A lot of flexibility in a lot of these layers. So Sri, hopefully that gives you a sense. So now this completes the second step, which is scoring, qualifying, and enriching the leads. Yeah, back to you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think you touched upon you know the difference between what we provide and what Clay provides. And the only thing I can relate to very easily is the onboarding we did with a customer this week, where the whole onboarding exercise was 30 minutes and was all
Yeah.
end user oriented, and it was so quick to get up and running. To me is compelling, because people want to try and play with stuff. They want to understand how the data is, and they want to do it in a very simple, intuitive user interface, so they can filter through the data and they can analyze it and clean it and then deploy it. So I think ease of use is very compelling. All right, let's keep going on the next few layers, Money. Let's take
Yeah.
beyond, after cleaning up and analyzing it. What next?
Yes, okay. What next? So this is so critical, and it's crazy, man. I'm telling you, we've talked all the way from SMB to mid market customers. They forget that you can have all the best signal data in the world you want. If you don't activate it right, if you don't action it right, it's all like a complete waste, right? It's such a waste of budget, waste of time, waste of effort. So I really want to emphasize that this is actually another critical set of steps in the process. So here, what we're doing for this SMB customer, for example, right? So is they want to action these out through email. So this is where we have a component we call Email Bison, which really allows you to create what are called secondary domains. So you don't affect the reputation of your primary domain for your company. You can have a bunch of mailboxes, the G Suite mailboxes, Microsoft mailboxes. You can then have a complete email, right, warming engine, and as well as outbound execution engine that you get in place. And then you have other tools that can get some messages out to some other social channels. And then there's yet another tool set this customers has lined up for running monthly nurture newsletter campaigns. And then from their website, they want to be able to have, when leads come in, certain people come in, if they're able to ID them, then they want to be able to literally kick off like a AI based outbound call, so long as they have the mobile number. So there are things you can do in kind of multi-channel outreach. So you're reaching them out through email and social and voice calling. So that those are important. And then the next piece is what you see here called inner pitch. Is actually we are partnering with somebody who's really a subject matter expert in very highly personalized messaging, deep account research, prospect level research, so that individual prospects, you can actually message them in a way that speaks to their problems, their pain points. It takes all the intent data and it interprets the signal and intent data in a way that honestly typical SDRs would have a challenge trying to understand at a deep level, kind of marrying and matching what is on the company's website, what is our customer's website, what's their value prop, to who's the prospect, what is their seniority, what's their title, what's their company, right? All the way to what are their pain points, what do they care about, if they're a CFO or a CRO versus if they're like a director, right, of a certain functional area. So being able to match the message to the prospect and their pain points is something these folks are doing amazingly, well. And so we've actually teamed up with them where they bring them into certainly some of our, customers that are targeting mid-market or enterprise accounts with complex sales cycles, long sales cycles. As you know, that becomes very important. And then we have certain other things we do with, if they're targeting smaller accounts. But yeah, this is
Yeah,
kind of
I
the
mean,
multi-channel outreach layer. Back to you. Yeah.
yeah, I think I want to double down on that. I think as you know, Money, I've run a sales organization before in multiple companies, and
Yeah.
one of the challenges, the most important challenges that we had in outbound was to reach the customers with a very personalized, tailored message without appearing creepy. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the outbound personalization that we are partnering with InnerPitch, I when I saw some of the letters they generated and some of the output they generated, which reflected the quality of the information and intelligence about the customer in the voice that the particular persona would love to be spoken to, was just
Yeah.
amazing. And I think doing that in 20 minutes, or getting a quality output in 20 minutes versus spending days trying to craft a sensible email, I think that's just amazing productivity. And that's, I think, one of the most compelling use cases, how AI blended with signals drives productivity.
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, I think just to continue down the path on this 9-layer stack, I just put up, the next slide, which is,
Hmm.
a lot of people are concerned about putting out AI, powered messaging without human review. So we have built an explicit approval step. So as you can see, there's a way that when the AI, you can have OpenAI or Claude or any of those, that APIs that are called as you craft these messages, or you can use InnerPitch for the highly custom messages where it's pretty much ready to go. Either way, there is an approval step using either Google Sheets, where literally the SDR manager, the lead, can go in and look at the messages, make sure they're good to go, good with it, and essentially mark it up saying, yep, good to go, approved, approved, approved. And then that message sequence gets set up and go. By the way, it's not for every prospect you have to have a crafted message. I'm talking at a campaign level, right? So you can have a cohort of prospects. You can have a set of approved message sequences, and so you can do it through Google Sheets, but also have another option, which is to do it through Slack, where you can click a button and then basically approves. But that hopefully gives you a sense on the approval step. But once the approval is done, of course, a lot of people then want all these accounts and leads and the relevant, contacts from that account all put in little campaign buckets and sequences, and then pushed into the email, boxes of individual SDRs based on the sales territory that they're assigned to, and then the sales reps that they're supporting. So that's the whole step 9 that you see here. And then, of course, we also have the ability to do, if there's a response from that email, once it's pushed out, push them straight into a calendar and book a meeting. So you don't have to have, if you can get to a meeting right away without getting the SDR involved, that's perfect. If you then need to have the SDR also now start engaging with them, get those message sequences out, make those phone calls, do those voice drops, then that's again another step. But yeah, Sri, back to you.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, Mani, this is very helpful, because what you've done is you've taken a you know, real life, example of a small or medium enterprise and how they have structured the entire, stack. And I hope this gives the audience a very practical view of how the whole process, from generating the signals all the way through to the follow-up actions, along with controls in the process, can be implemented for an organization. So that's really nice and helpful. I just want to, before, I want to also talk a little bit, Money, around, does this nuance for SMBs, is that different from when we go into like slightly larger organizations, like a mid-market? Are you seeing differences in the way that they put the stack together? And maybe you can talk through that, because the larger they become, the more complex they get. So maybe there's some differences here that maybe there are mid-market companies listening to this thinking, my business is more complex or bigger. Can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let me just wrap this up, Sri, by making one key point, which is the SMB, uh, a nine-layer tech stack with the process automation process. We typically see this just in terms of timeline and the amount of time it takes to deploy one of these. People, we recommend companies should plan for anywhere from 90 to 120 days to build this whole thing out. Obviously, it depends on their maturity, but I'm assuming, okay, they're like a 25, $30 million company. They probably have some of the more traditional SaaS tech and tools. Maybe they haven't, they're still early in their AI journey. So that's kind of the framing in my head as I talk about plan for 90 to 120 days. I'm sure everybody wants it in 60 days. That can be pretty challenging if you already have existing people busy with doing other stuff because it's a collaborative exercise between us and them. Yeah, talking about the mid market, let me go there next because what we see the big thing is that when you go into the mid market, there are actually some significant solution components that need to be considered, right? Certain key tech components that are much more, in my view, specialized. So you want to, and then they're a little more mature because they can handle much better scale. And so this is what I'm showing here next is an example of a 500 million ARR company. They primarily go after SMB customers. So SMB customers, they have literally 15 million of those SMB customers. They literally have you know millions of monthly unique visitors coming to their website, right? Significant investment in driving traffic to their website. And so there's a lot of value that they see in de-anonymizing their site traffic. And so we're talking literally tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of prospects that they are just scaling up to reach out to and engage through this kind of a four-layer, what they call prospect intelligence stack, right? Prospect intelligence and engagement stack. So let's talk about what's happening here. So they've got one layer, which is the Quanzu Signals Hub, and the Signals Hub is the one generating all these signals, website, offsite, and they're going to soon look at other opportunities like social, and then so that's one piece. So let's look at literally step by step. Right? It's a four-layer stack. You've got your uh, the Signals Hub, which is on the left. You've got your call it the Prospect Intelligence Hub, which is where all the signals are fed into the Intelligence Hub. You've got all your internal data sources down below, which is where all the data is going to funnel in, which is their form fill data, could be their e-commerce cart experience data, it could be some analytics data, on and on. Once you bring them into the Intelligence Hub, then you have another level, which is the engagement stack. The engagement stack is the one that will pick up all these signal-based segments. And there's also a cold contact marketing database that's also sitting in the hub. So I have some more elaborate details, so I'll kind of explain a little more detail as we go down. But let me go to the next slide. But these are examples of internal sources that people want to keep in mind as you go to larger organizations. There'll be more and more of those internal sources. And you will also want to have a cold prospecting database, which covers some part of your TAM, right? And more so the part of the TAM that you're really trying to go after and prospect into. So the point here is all of this needs to be accounted for as you start building out what I call the Signals Hub is deployed, and then next to the Signals Hub, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is the Prospect Intelligence Hub. But yeah, back to you, Sri.
That's interesting. That's very compelling. I can't wait to hear the other two layers that you've got there. In terms of what the mid-market companies do. But I think this I think gives a flavor of how when you go from a small and medium enterprise or medium enterprise, you start to see more of how the complexity can be handled through these different layers.
Yeah. So I think it's worth calling out so that signals, when we feed into the next layer, which I'll talk about the Intelligence Hub, there's a few options in terms of how you build the Intelligence Hub. But the Signals Hub, the other important point to note is it's important to connect to do what's called ID sync and ID swap. Because what you'll have is you'll have some level of information that we will have within our tech and our tool, but then there's some other information on that same prospect that might be available in something like Adobe, Adobe's Analytics, Experience Manager Analytics. So if you connect the dots across those two, it's very, very powerful. Or you might have on the other side, if you're doing like a e-commerce shopping cart flow, you may have some interesting data and insights on different points of the journey of the buyer over there. So doing that so-called journey sequence merging between those other tools and our signals hub is another very, very important point I wanted to make that people sometimes forget, that that's a big
Yeah,
opportunity for you to optimize the entire
yeah.
flow. So let me go to the next slide. But this is where you can have this prospect intelligence hub where you do the data unification, you do the identity resolution and matching, you can do historical timeline views of a prospect as they go through all these different tech and tools, right? And then you can have much more enriched, comprehensive profiles with behavioral history of that prospect. And here, the other point I want to make is you can start literally with a relational database, like a super base type of approach for this layer of the stack. But then we have seen companies, starting to look at customer data platform CDP tools, and so like a treasure data and some others. And so that becomes very compelling in that you can then bring those guys in, you can bring that piece of tech in, and get to that next level of maturity. Sri, yeah, back to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the data unification and the resolution is so critical. Like you said, there are
Hmm.
multiple sources, and also I think you touched upon the very critical fact that we're not sitting in isolation. The Signals Hub works with all of the other, technologies where intelligence on customers are being acquired, whether it's an Adobe or a different platform. And so the fact that we can coexist and consolidate to provide the unification is very compelling because it's not a rip and replace. It's more about how do you get better signals intelligence and unification from various different points of interaction with the customer.
Yeah, and I think the other important point here, Sri, is that again, remember I talked about a complete account and prospect and lead level data model. So the data model that we're able to provide and provision the customer with is a significant point of value for the customer, because otherwise they're going to have an enterprise data architect, they're going to have a data architecture team, strategy team, trying to figure out a lot of this stuff out around signals that that's what it's a part of our DNA. We've been living and breathing that stuff for a few years now. So we're able to bring it to them and they can move us so much faster. So that's what one of the things I know for a fact, the CMO at this mid-market company is pretty happy about working with us, is we've been able to accelerate the process for them from initial deployment and to kind of their first go live, which is literally we're just doing it now.
Good.
But yeah.
Good. I'm a bit conscious of the time. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left, so maybe we can go to the last layer and then
Yeah.
talk through that, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think the point here is once you've got data sitting in the intelligence hub, then it's the logical next step is the same thing like in the SMB case. You would need to do the account scoring, you need to do the lead scoring. So the account and lead scoring prioritization happens in N8N. So again, it pulls the data out of the hub, the intelligence hub. You can then build your segment. So the segment building also happens in N8N and some of the other layers that are part of the engagement stack. And here's you will see we have a new component called Octave HQ. So this is certainly something we're seeing more of as you go to the mid market, where it's a little more of a mature AI, personalization engine, if you will, where you can load in all your use cases, load in your case studies, define all your different personas, and you can, for different segments, it can generate more of this AI based, you know, call it message sequences through different tactics, be it email and LinkedIn, and social and some of the other channels. And then you can then look at it and decide, is that something you want to then push out, right? And you can have a human in the loop at that point, and then you can do outreach through tools like Lemlist over here. But the segment builder, campaign orchestration, all that kind of falls into the engagement stack layer. um, and then from there, let me just kind of make sure that I do this 1 second. Let me know if you can see this. You're seeing this part. Makes sense.
I'm still seeing the prospect engagement stack.
Correct, correct. So let me just bring this guy up real quick. Apologies, I'm just trying to figure out. Hopefully, if I switch now, hopefully this will come through. So I just want to show you the next layer of the stack, which is if I go here, um, slideshow. Are you able to see the next one? If I go to the
Yeah,
multi-channel outreach, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, as you can see, there's a lot to be done here on multi-channel orchestration, prioritization. You can have decision trees, kind of things over here, sequence optimization, and then and here kind of is a summation, if you will, tree of the entire journey. As you can see, all the way from signal capture, ingestion, enrichment, qualification, right, and all the different triggers and outreach. And what happens from here is, of course, you want to have positive responses. So the key measure here would be: are you able to generate positive responses for your outbound sequences? Are you then able to funnel it to your CRM? Are you able to do kind of territory management, territory mapping into your different sales teams? Depending on the types of prospects you're pursuing, on and on. So I wanted to make sure that part was obvious.
yeah.
So that kind of sums up what happens there. But yeah,
Well,
back to you.
that's great, Manny, because I think the talking through the entire flow from the signals through to the ingestion and unification of the signals, and then the follow-up, because like you said, the signal's only as good as the follow-up is, and many of our customers have learned it the hard way over the last few
Mm.
years, where they've brought on great signals, but they haven't focused as much on follow-up. But it's an entire end-to-end process, and I think it's good that you managed to explain that for both an SMB customer example and a mid-market example. Hopefully, it gives the audience a good flavor as to how this entire end-to-end process can be set up in a very structured way, in a timely manner, in a very rapid implementation mode, where you said what 90 120 days, which is really compelling, and where we can integrate and also look at other signals that exist from other technologies in place. I think it's a great story, and I think it's hopefully
Yeah.
given audience a good clarity around that.
Yeah, so Sri, let's close out. I should probably mention to people listening that please, we'll send out, get in touch with us if you would like to be a part of our AI GTM Cafe, our monthly cafe, which is going to be separate from these LinkedIn Live sessions. We're going to be doing more like a Zoom session with, what I call the GTM insiders coming together, including you'll get a chance to talk to some of our customers, our partners, our friendlies, our advisors, our agencies, partners as well. So that's something, Sri, we're going to do March 18th at 8:30 is our first of the AI GTM cafes. And then for those who are in Pavilion, which is, as you know, this 10,000 plus member revenue leader community, um, we have a whole channel where a lot of these conversations are happening, which is a signal based GTM channel in Pavilion. So those of your Pavilion members, you may want to kind of jump in there. We're more than happy to engage with you on conversation board around to learning from each other around what the state of the art is, what's happening in the world today in terms of signal based GTM, modern GTM tech stacks being modernized and so forth. And then I'm just going to put up, Sri, kind of a thank you slide with our contact information so people can get in touch with us. And hopefully this is also going to come through here. One second. But yeah, go ahead, Sri. What's the best way for
Well,
people to reach you?
yeah, I think LinkedIn is a great way to reach me, and I think would be happy to entertain any questions, and your email address there as well. So feel free to reach out to Money or myself if you have any questions. And I hope you found this session useful. Happy to hear your comments. You can post them on LinkedIn. If you have other points of view on it, we'll be happy to engage. And if you want to understand better our journey and how you can leverage our Signals Hub to drive your business and to meet your buyers in the market, please feel free to reach out to either of us. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks, Money. And